One, 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 two, this, two, take it. Some years later, the difficult campaign against the autism by the French won a hard-fought victory. The next morning, Napoleon reviewed the 13th Regiment of the Light Infantry, which had faithfully well in the battle, and asked the colonel to name its bravest one. The colonel thought for a moment and said, "It is the Grim Reaper." Napoleon immediately asked to see the gun advance, and it appeared quickly in the boots. Then Napoleon laughed loudly for everyone to hear. They said that you are the greatest man of the regiment, and it plenty now that the Legion of Honor, bearing of the Empire, and a royal pension of 4,000 francs. The soldiers gasped. The king was famous for his well-timed promotion gift and for promoting soldiers on merit, making even the lowliest pilot feel that if he took himself, he could someday be a martyr. But a drum major becoming a baron overnight, that was entirely beyond their experience. Word of it spread rapidly to the troops and had an electrifying effect, particularly on the newest conscripts they want to war, most conflict in the press. There his long, very bloody campaigns and even his heart-wrenching defeats, the bitter reach of the aggressive, the eventual exile to Elba, the final act of Waterloo. Napoleon's then would go on to the ends of the earth for that petite Colbert and the now. Napoleon was the greatest madman in history, who took millions of unruly, interested, and unsoldierly young men, recently liberated by the French Revolution and molded them into one of the most successful fighting forces ever known. Their high mile was all the more remarkable for the ordeals he put them through. Napoleon used every trick in the book to build his army. He united them around a cause setting forth the idea of the French Revolution, living the glory of violence as a growing empire. He treated them well but never spoiled them. He appealed not to their greed but to their thirst for gold and recognition. He led from the front, proving the bravery again and again. He kept his men moving. There was always a nutrient to gold. Having bonded with them, he skillfully played on their emotions. More than solely fighting in the iron, his men felt themselves part of the myth, united under the Empire's legendary evil standards. But one of Napoleon's techniques, none was more effective than his use of punishments and rewards, all staged for the greatest dramatic impact. His personal hints were rare, and when he was angry, when he punished, the effect of death was devastating. The target felt his own outcast. As an exile from the bump that was down on, he would struggle to win back the general favor and then never to give him a reason to be angry again. Emotions, reward, and public praise were equally rare, and when they came, they were always familiar with 90% political calculation. Drawn between the poet of wanting merits of complete pain and yearning for recognition, his men were pulled into his sled, following him devotedly but never quite catching up. One from the master, the way to manage people is to keep them in suspense. First create a bond between your soldiers and yourself. They respect you, admire you, even through you. To make the bond stronger, hold yourself back. Better let us take a live around yourself and you won't get with a touch of distance. Once the bond is close or pure left open, make both your punishments and your praises rare and unexpected. Whether through mistakes or possesses that may seem minor at the time but has symbolic meaning. Understand? Once people know what previously and what ages you return into true feelings, working to charm you with apparently good behavior, keep them in suspense. Make them think of you constantly they want to please you but never know just how to do it. Once they are in the trap, you will have a magnetic pull with them. Motivation will become automatic. The morals continue so is its opposite. Fear and discontent will spread through your troop like wildfire. The only way to deal with them is to put them off before they turn into panic and rebellion. In 15 BC, when Rome was fighting the Gallic, Julius Caesar was preparing for battle against the demonic leader Artaxerxes. Rumors about the ferocity and size of the German soldiers were flying, and his army was panicking and ruinous. Caesar acted fast. First, he had the Roman monk was erected. Next, he addressed the Soviet personally, reminding them of their brave ancestors who had fought in the defeat of the Germans. They will not lead their victory or the ascendancy to battle. Except for 10th Legion and long soon moved to the Growing Panic. We will take the moment. As Caesar prepared to march with the rebellion and 10 Legion, the rest of the army, ashamed, begged him to forgive them and let them fight. With a show of reluctance, he did say, and these once flying men fought fiercely. In such cases, do not act like still, turning back the title of the panic. Waste no time and deal with the whole group. Waste no time and deal with the whole group. People who spread panic immediately experience a kind of madness in which they gradually move closer to reality. Appeal to their fighting dignity and make them feel ashamed of their moment of weakness and madness. Remind them of what they have accomplished in the past and show them how they have fallen for the idea. This social shame will wake them up in the birth of the enemy. The function of them. The primary defensive meaning is not a single weakness, that is the head of to be working. A powerful style which you want requirements are simple. First, you must make the most of the research of fighting with perfect economy and give you only battle that are necessary. Second, you must know how and want to retreat. Knowing and disciplining you into an authority attack. Then waiting patiently for every moment in exhaustion once you a vicious counter attack. In a world that forms and explodes with aggressive aggression, the ability to fight defensively, to let others make the perfect that they wait for their own mistakes to destroy them, will bring you onto a path. As you guys do their energy more time, you are always ready for the next inevitable battle. Your career will be long and fruitful. To fight this way, you must master the arts of the deception. By seeming weaker than you are, you can draw the enemy into the life attack. By seeming stronger than you are, perhaps through an occasional act that is reckless and bold. You can deter the enemy from attacking you. In defensive warfare, you are essentially leveraging your weaknesses and limitations into power and victory. The following fact chapter will instruct you in the basic art of defensive warfare, the economy of means to attack, intimidation, and deterrent, and how to retreat skillfully and lie low and under objective attack. Pick your battles carefully. The perfect economy shattered. We all have limitations. Our energy and skills will take us only so far, and danger comes from trying to surpass our limits. Reduced by some literally fights until overextending ourselves, we end up the dots that are involved with. You must know your limits or quickly battles carefully. Consider the hidden costing one. Time law, political goodwill, squander, and embittered enemy bent on revenge. Sometimes it is better to avoid to unknown your enemies completely rather than hitting them straight on. If a battle cannot be avoided, get them to fight on your turn. Aim at your weaknesses, make the war expensive for them and cheap for you. Fighting the perfect economy, you can analyze even the most powerful foe. In 280 BC, war broke out between Rome and the city of Tarentum. And Italy's east coast, Tarentum had begun as the colony of the Greek city of Sparta. The city still Greek, considered themselves fortress following with that other Italian city barbarian. Rome was emerging power large in a series of wars with neighboring cities. The Tudor Romans were reluctant to take on Tarentum. They were the Italy the city at the time. Rich enough to finance its allies in the war against Rome, they were also too far away. Often the Southwings declared an immediate threat. But the Tarentians had sent some Roman ships that had wandered into the harbor, killing the fleet's admiral, and Rome had tried to negotiate a settlement, but the ambassador had been insulted. Roman honor was at stake, and they ready to suffer order. Tarentum had a problem with they were wealthy but had no real earnings, but Sidon had gotten used to easy living. The solution was to throw in a Greek army to fight on the land. The Spartan for other like occupied so their French elected to leave common to violence fire of liquid. The David fleet was kings in the great Italy with Malta in the west central Greece. It was a poor land sparsely populated with Middle East over the Graves are employees of the police from whom his family claimed to be descended in adopting the date. A distant cousin was generally following the footsteps of his illustrious ancestor to the relative, extremely incorrect, and carving out his own empire. As a young man who had served in only the rather great military men, including the general battlefield of the now ruled Egypt. Third has quickly claimed their value as an organization. In the battle, he became one for leading the really dangerous target earnings of the Middle East. Back in Eastward, he had built up a small army and trained it well, really managing to defeat the most large next burning line in several battles. That is a good vision of the right. The was built for small creature like his to be a cemetery with no powerful good year with like that it's the story in my opinion. And to often of thinking. First, they promised me money and our organization and I was thinking. Second, by defeating the Romans, you could merchant segment for getting and for literally he could make, he could say first history, the cartage on it after the Alexander had moved infantry of his empire. Third, for me, Western dominated the Mediterranean, he accepted the altar. On the spring of 280 BC, there was that they were the largest fleet army ever was marked into Italy. 20,000 foot seven, 3,000 horsemen, 2,000 government and 20,000 once in chance, no, we realized we had to be true. Not only did the Persians have no army, they had made no effort at some of them, leaving her to do it himself. If nothing, he declared a military dictatorship in the city and began to build and finally one among the Children as fast as possible. A rival and the fancy border worried about me to move him. The decision was static within better. Instead of getting its moment to prepare, they figured set out a only 14 by to make a deal with what he had and reset up for them. But you want to get near the town of the hairspinner. Harrison in particular, I mean, there are wings from around the river to creep, the union moves the secret of the God. But the message they loud, piercing thinking and further himself, firing earth, then over the earth. The old had never picked out of the battle of and comes for among them. Coming to tell the king. He would disappear only even were in hell the truth. The evil had only been looked at him. This stand for across the Italian peninsula. He was indeed the reincarnation of the debate. Now other citizens in the reports were remotely making up for his life that but sorry, was worried. He had lost many records in battle, including Chief General. More important, restricting him like the reigning leaders had a custom. They don't have no other troops yet. Instead of trying to get safe people something that they were in copy or showed the peninsula with them. At the same time, though, the month from them to build the negotiations and the urgency to make it clear that we have to almost stick with things, they will face him again. Meanwhile, the defeat had had a powerful effect on Rome. They were not easily intimidated and did not take the field out. Immediately after the battle, I called on him for recruiting young men with hunger and death. The women found him deputy outlaw settlement. They were made a share with him. The two armies met again at the time of Palestine. And that far from them, in the spring of 279 BC, this time their numbers were about equal. The first day of battle was fierce, and once again the Romans seized the village. But on the second day, a strategic master managed to load the Romans even was trained better suited to one side of the movement. And he gave the event. As was one. Near the end of the day, he put through that a battle charge of the heart of the legions, elephant to king. The Romans scattered and he was once again victorious. He, Artemis, had now spread a fight. He never fought only to win for bright building. His losses had been terrible. The nation of the Daniels had protected them on their destiny, and England's side had been a valuable. At the same time, we only see enemies hospital, undaunted by the defeat. Then, congratulating on the victory, I asked, and he replied, if you defeat the Romans in one more set battle, you should be totally immune. Pirates had, however, was already immune. His losses had actually were too large to be quickly approached, and it remaining closer to 2 feet by the enemies again. His Italian defeat was wrong. In the story of King in the state of the when after the battle as well, briefly especially the local, so many friendly trained. that it was good at the key, so it comes to two great paths. The victory is true throughout the two feelings, there are two many of the to body. And indeed, after the victory, as the fire staggered from the one attack to the next. He dominated quite strongly into the feet of growing identity. This culminated in his untimely death in battle, ending future hope to become a power in these. Very kid that rewarded a downward spiral, advanced in telling me what I told him about felt involved both the discipline and velocity of the woman and of the food and technical of the experiences. And knowing that he could have taken much of the bullet down there or canceled the expedition altogether. Once he saw that he had been tricked, he could have turned back after they were still trying to retrench, and saw that they quit while he was ahead. And he had done any of those before he might have had a different ending. The players could not stop himself. The dream of terror and the worry about the past. He couldn't come later, and with that, he looked at the same goal. Three victories were much more common than you really think. Excitement about adventures process was natural before it began, and the goal of the sightsee, they usually constitute feel you wanted to. Now with the possibilities, still the possibility of the they further feel the harder it is to fall back and naturally reassess the situation. In such circumstances, the constant not just being you and they spiral out of control. The dreams go down, we get exalted and the leads us to make mistakes, which leads to new fantasy falling. But concern leads to new thought. Any victory we might have along the way, meanings. Understand the more you want, understand the more you want the price, the more you know the opposite by examining or getting your take. You look beyond the obvious cost and think about the intangible, the good or unique scorner, the routine or the theory of the moon and the earth. The time of when you take to the Dutch islands, you can always wait for better time. You can always patiently know in line with the resources. Remember, victory is living with the portrait of people who ignore the path. Serve yourself honestly that will live by the faith. In the waters have grown dull and sports depressed, and our strengths have been extended and resources to see, then others will take advantage of our exhaustion in life. Then even if you have life, then you can make things turn out and live. That will work for you. Look, Jesus. When 3 years into the polls, a single the day in 1550, she and Hurley were set to new power. The country had been racked by civil war and its finances were in the mess. Elizabeth believed in creating her own creative peace, and the she could slowly rebuild England's foundation and particularly its economy. The government with money was the government with options. England, with not only the limited resources, but not with the competing rule of France and fleet. The great powers of Europe, instead it would gain strength for the trading and economic stability. Year by year, for 2 years, Elizabeth made progress. Within the late 50s, her situation suddenly seemed dire. An enemy war was paid for any potential opportunity for the previous 2 decades. The Spanish took further settling the devoted Catholic to consider it with proceeding which is on the very federal the Low Turkey is now falling in Belgium, where the property was staying at Frank. Though the Poland protesting the rebellion was carrying its will, they could have won to war with the level of the Chinese question. Meanwhile, one of the most cherished viewers to restore capitalism to England. The short truth study was to plot to have Elizabeth assassinated and replace her casket to the Catholic aid from the spots on the bare stone. In case this panned out, this long-term study was to build an immense memorial ship and invade England. Philip did not keep his intentions loyalty, and Elizabeth's minister saw me as another. They advised her to send armies to the New Republic, also for the supporting future to the minister instead of into an attack of England. But it isn't about the bad idea. She would send small further there and let the fit doesn't develop a military disaster. But she would not commit to anything more. Elizabeth Woodin will maintaining an army with a huge extent and all sorts of other really possible for to America. Building the stability she had but that the war with Spain really was a matter of Elizabeth wanted to fight over the nations. She wanted the war that would ruin Spain financially and leave England safe. Defying her ministers, Elizabeth did what she could to keep the peace of Spain and choosing to go from it. That brought her to put aside funds for building up the British Navy. Meanwhile, she worked in secret to damage the Spanish economy, where she saw that its army would snap. Spain's enormous expanding empire in the New World was really powerful, but that empire was far away. To maintaining the profits and its village was entirely dependent on shipping. a vast fleet that he paid for with enormous loans from Italian bankers. His credit with these banks depended on the safe passage of his ship leaving both from the New the power is being erected on a new foundation. And so he Elizabeth unleashed the greatest captain, Joe Francis Drake, from the Spanish treasure ship. He was to appear to be operating in a room, the pirate out there one pocket. No one was to know the connection between him and the fleet. With each ship that he attacked, the infantry on Philip's one crept over. Until eventually the Italian bankers were arranging the raid more because of the threat of Drake and one because of the race because of the loss. Philip had hoped to launch their armada against him about 1582. Shorter money, yes, daily. Elizabeth had daughters of China. Meanwhile, much to the storyline of Philip's finance minister, the king quickly stirred back the size of the invading armada. Building it might take longer, but he would just borrow new money. Seeing his fellow Indians and religious crusade, he would not be betrayed by a mere matter of finance. However, the ruling Philip's better, Elizabeth put a reporting for of the legal resources into building of the English spy network. In fact, she made it the most sophisticated intelligent villages in Europe. In later throughout Spain, she was took from the Philip's other move. She knew very how large the Armada was to be, and when it was to be launched. That allowed her to faithfully calling up her own reserve until the very last moment, showing the government money. Finally, in the summer of 1580, the Spanish model of Rafael. The compromise of 102 million should be fully to the large government, and a vast number of sailors and soldiers, equally sized to England's entire navy, they had profit fortune. Our Armada set sail we left them in the second week of July. But Elizabeth's spies had firmly informed her of Spain's plan, and she was able to send a fleet small and memorable English ship to go after Armada and was of the French coast, sinking its supply ship and generally creating chaos. As the commander of the English fleet, the Lord Effingham reported, therefore that the wonders were great and strong to shun, and yet left and fell little by little. Finally, the Armada came to the anchor in the port of Valence, were able to be linked up with the Spanish administration in the local camp. The children of the land after taking up the detail reporting to English gathered 8 large ships loaded them with flammable such as the Seppi report of the Spanish fleet, which were paper and tight condition. As the British ships approached the harbor under full sail, they quickly set them on fire and evacuated. The result was havoc, with dozens of Spanish ships in flames. Other squadrons of saved water, often colliding with one another, and they were hasty to put to sea, all ordered dug down. The loss of ships and supplies at the devastated Spaniards disappointed mind, and the invasion was called off. To avoid further attacks on the troops of Spain, the remaining ships heading not south and north, only to sail home against Scotland and Ireland. The English did not even bother to pursue. They knew that the rough weather and those waters would be the damage for them. At the time the Shadow Armada retreated Spain, 42 of the ships had been launched, and most of the rest were too damaged to be seaworthy. Almost 2/3 of the slaves and soldiers had perished at sea. Meanwhile, England had lost not a single ship, and nearly 100 men had died in action. It was a great triumph, but Elizabeth wanted to know Tommy Woodard. To save money, she immediately decommissioned the Navy. She also refused to listen to her she urged her to follow up the victory by attacking the Spanish and Royal Her goals were limited. To exhaust public resources and finances, forcing them to abandon this means of capital dominance and this sensitivity of delicate balance of power in Europe. And this indeed was ultimately the greatest strength. But Spain never imposed financially from the disaster of Armada and soon gave up its advance in meeting with Australia. The defeated Spanish Armada has to be considered one of the most cost-effective in military history. The second-rate power that ability maintained the Spanish home was able to face on the greatest empire of the Spain. Readily the victory possible with the application of basic military action. Attack the UK is with the states. England is strength with its small naval navy and its elaborate intelligence level. Its weakness is its limited resources of men, weaponry, and men. Spain's strength were its vast and its huge army and fleet, which weakly favor the pre-fairly structure of the finances, despite the magnitude and the limited size and scales of the ship. Elizabeth refused to fight in Spain's terms, keeping her own out of the fight, until she attacked Spain's weakness with her strength. Willoughby and Spanish government with his smaller ship, wreaking havoc on the crew to form with his using special ops to grind his rubbish into a hull. She was able to control the situation that two English clamped down, making the war after more and more expensive for Spain. Eventually, it turned king and Philip to the Emperor. The Armada sank, he would be ruined for 2 years, but reached the king and even of the Armada I am written with one so dear that you will humans are trying to split it onto your soul. Understand, no person or group is completely either weak or strong. Every army, no matter how invisible it seems, has a weak point, with place left unprotected or undeveloped. Size itself can be a nucleus of the. Meanwhile, even the weak fixed group has something it can build on, something strong. And going forward, not simply to a massive stockpile of weapons, simply firepower you could blast the enemy war. That is a wasteful, expensive chip. That is wasteful, expensive build. It needs to be vulnerable to be able to attack. The going of your enemy robot will shrink the district and you can be stupid. Instead, you must place a sustained with internal political power beyond the shaky finances, overly centralized control, and needles, nego, media. While perfectly keeping your own weaknesses out of the play and forgetting your strengths for the long haul. Hitler to be still again and again, having your weaknesses exposed and played upon will be more likely. And at they tired, no weaknesses will open up. By carefully calibrating strengths and weaknesses, you can bring diamonds alive but it's nature. Abundance makes it work. Over. And reality can be defined by a short series of limits even when living living deep. The final boundary being that we have only so much energy to expend for retired. Only so much in the way of food and resources both available to life. Our skill to craft and speak only so forth. An animal lives within those limits. It does not try to fly higher or for it to extend earnings and be immensely powerful. Without what exhausted and leave it vulnerable to attack. The city tries to make the most of what they have. The cat, for instance, instinctively practices an economy of motion and gesture. Many always do nothing. The people who live in poverty similarly are acute aware of the limits. Forced to make the most of what they have, they are easily inventive. Necessity has a powerful effect on their creativity. The point is by those of us who live in societies of abundance is that we look at sense of limit. We are carefully shielded from death and passing months even without contemplating it. We imagine endless times at our disposal and slowly drift further from reality. We imagine endless energy and dwelling. Thinking we can get what we want simply by trying harder. We try to see everything as limitless, the beauty of a plan, the possibility of what could be. The human constantly go to ridiculous thing with time is expressed the point of beef and think fun and get three people. To young people make anything achievable. The abundant means of the rich and great for and knows there are no limits. But it makes us poor in reality. It makes us soft and depleted, with the overwhelming we have it and need a constant shock to remember that we are alive. In life, we must be a warrior and all require realism. While others might find beauty in only the dreams, warriors find it in reality. In awareness of limits and making the most of what they have. Like the cat, you can live for the perfect time of the emotional investment. The way to give their goal the greatest efforts for the least exponential objective. There were winners that built those remember that they could die at any time, belongs to no reality. There were things they could never do, challenges they would never have, lofty goals that they will never reach, that hardly bother them. Warriors focus on what they do have, the strengths that they do possess, and that they must use creatively. One will slow down to remove to retrench. They outlast their opponents. They play for their own team. It appointed at the first Premier League Vietnam and on the third Vietnam War. The military leader within the news to serve with the German leader in first the French and then the American fleet faced the enemy with vast necessary resources. Power instantly. His own army was ragtag actually because they had a deep sense of purpose they had lost. Pep had many trucks to carry supplies and his communications were 19th century. Another general would have tried to catch up and give Pep the opportunity. He had the offer of truck radio weapons and seamen from China. But he saw them as a terror. It was only that he didn't want to spend his limited future in such things. In the long run, he believed all they would do was turn them up into what we do with their enemy. Instead, he chose to make the most of what he had, turning his own weapons into workshop. Troops could be spotted in the air, and the Americans could bomb them. But the Americans could not bomb supply lines with an accent. Exploiting the research has been developing from vast military peasant communities to create supplies for their backs. When they came to a river, they would cross it and they road bridges, not just below the surface of the water. Right up to the end of the war, the Americans were still trying to figure out how to move Vietnam and supply its armies in the field. Meanwhile, left the Belgians and the red text, they gave him a moment potential of weapon make his time. To fight New City, very supplies, the Americans used helicopters which gave them tremendous mobility. But the later ultimately had to be fought on the ground. And yet was honestly eventually immediately blended with a mission like the American Empire. It's only an American force so that they cannot fight their own ship. He could not hope to win your pitch value against superior U.S. weaponry. But he put his effort into protecting his died being all as a character, driving the futility of the war when they appear on American TV. At the minimum that he created the maximum effect. Armies that seem to have the urban money and resources and power can attempt to be predictable. Relying on the equipment instead of on knowledge or strategy, they build mentally lazy. When problems arise, the solution is to amass more of what they already have. That is not what you have that brings you victory. It is how you use it. And nevertheless, you are naturally more inventive. Creativity gives you a major awareness depending on technology. You will learn more, be more adaptable, you will outsmart them. Never always stay limited each other. You will use enough. Time will be your ally. But we have less in your enemy do not stay, and you can always turn the situation around to practicing a perfect economy. If you and your enemy are equal, getting involved in more weaponry matters less than making better than what you are. If you are more than your enemy, fighting economically is as important as ever. As Tokyo the country said, even if you are wealthy, the poor are more inventive and often have more fun because they value what they have and more than the time. Sometimes it's bad when you actually know your greatest strength and focus or to get the maximum out of the enemy. Even if you have the technology to fight perfectly well. This does not mean that you as only feel exposed to what advantage that you may have in material. In Operation Desert Storm, the U.S. campaign against Iraq and Incident American military sadly made full use of the superior technology, particularly in air, but they can limit depending on this position. They had another lesson of the pockets formula during the maneuver showed a kind of the second phase and maneuverability associated with smaller border-like fishes. This combination of advanced technology, creativity, proved devastating. What was the balance of engineering and the wars the talent of Ramsey knew that General might have the best chance to achieve each other, but useless. But I'm not seeing as the move to a company that this calls work with. Life living with the evil they have learned to begin by examining the moves they have at hand, and then to develop a strategy out of the truth. That is what made hang up the early strategy. You will always be firm with the given the nature of the thing when you end up and of the enemies very restrictive opposition to probably integrate the choice truth beyond the world they love it. That would give him a foundation not only for spending a table for the land that he wanted to achieve in this particular encounter. Instead of being locked into a way of fighting, it's only different. He constantly adjusted his legs their dreams. That was the strategic advantage in me at the beginning again. Next thing you want to create periods for the next thing about doing it, solve the problem was to bring the map can understand the paper. The 15 people about what you have, but you material you will be working with. The grammars of not even depend for the reality. Think of it as for the political ways the manner, but now you should have to have creatively you can use the meat over the focus. Then out of that process, the lowest kinds of goals not only your strategy be matter realistic, they would be more mental and perfect. And then you think of working alone and then trying to find the move for each other, the recipe for the without voice and the people.